Napoleon Bonaparte was born on August 15th, 1769, and died on May 5th, 1821. He was a Corsican military and political leader who was the Emperor of France from 1804 to 1815. So if Assassin's Creed 5 will go any farther than that of the French Revolution, like how number 3 goes after the American Revolution,
or just like number 2, on how it spans over 30 years of Ezio's life,
it can go past because of the Apple corrupting Napoleon and him being sent off to the island after the Battle of Waterloo with the French and the British and all the people on Waterloo. He was banished and exiled and whatever, and he dies on the island. Well,
it's the island of St. Helena.
Yes. As you can see, we have done our research. And, well, if he was that corrupt, maybe Arno killed him. He snuck on the island and took his life of his once known friend, because he will most likely be the George Washington of AC5.
Because there was a French Revolution. Revolution means there's a leader trying to rebel against a higher power. So Napoleon was once liked among the revolutionaries, but he came to power in real history. He came to power and eventually became a dictator. But in Assassin's history, he came to power and had an apple.
With
and that
more of, the apple
corrupted him.
Corrupted, yes.
Why made him more power, and he became a dictator, and no one liked him after that. So
they exiled him.
After he started a war with the Prussians and the English. The Prussians and English beat him at Waterloo, exiled him to St. Helena, and he eventually died there. So, just like my brother said before, maybe Arno
the cause of death could be Arnaud, just to get him like dead for good.
Or he's put him on the island so he knew he would rot.
Yeah, or something along those lines. But I don't think Napoleon's going to be playing bocce with you.
No, not like George Washington wanted to. But
that's just a little joke.
Speaking of George Washington, Assassin's Creed 3, we are starting to think that in 1792 and later, 1792, Connor Kenway would be around 30 years old.
Well, in 1780, he was 20.
That was 1781.
1781, he was 20 years old.
That was the end of Assassin's Creed.
If none of you know that, do your research. He was just about 20 years old.
He was really, really young and in his prime.
So, 1780 to 1790, that's 10 years, 12 years.
He'd be like 30.
To 1792, which we have said before, is when the guillotine started being using. So we have labeled that as the start of his AC5, around there, give or take 5 years. So Connor will be 30 to 35 years old.
Still in his prime, because he's one of the most fit assassins out of all the assassins.
And he leads the American colony's assassins. So he will, I bet you he will be mentioned.
Because the amount of, like time he puts in freedom and the assassin order, he will most likely want to go overseas and fight in the
He
French
might
Revolution.
be in number 5. But
not necessarily like as a soldier like he was in the colonial.
Maybe just
army.
like on a meeting, or I don't know if you call them like meetings, or like what would you call them, like a grouping.
I think
or
if the assassins are bigger in the French, like the French what's it called, guild, like in the French guild, they're bigger. He might get called over, but he's not mentioned in the history of the war. But that also brings up another thing on Unity. The Assassin's Creed Unity symbol is an assassin's symbol insignia split in half. It looks like it's cut by a guillotine or something. So that could mean either one of two things. Either the guild got split and corrupt in France, or it needs to get put back together in France.
Like how the colonies needed to be put together.
But if it's unity is to unite. It's to bring people together, or bring people or things together. So what does that tell you? It tells you that something needs to be united, like the Assassins or France.
because of the rebellion. But the assassins are the key to the rebellion.
Because Assassins and Templars have always been in major conflicts in the world. So they're bound to be in this one, just like they were in the what's it called, in the American Revolution.
And also, there is the fact that there is a picture right now, bam, of the truth from AC2. There was pictures of, including George Washington. So, whenever he got the Apple with the Assassin's Creed 3 add-on, so Ubisoft has been thinking of these plans for years.
Because in real Assassin's Creed history, after the Battle of
Yorktown, George Washington took the apple.
He found an apple off of a
British soldier
officer,
planning to give it to the king back in England.
I think actually the king probably gave it to him to take over America.
I don't know. Either way, back and forth. I don't know. But George Washington confiscated it, and then the events of the add-on took place, where Connor and him witnessed in a vision of what would happen
if George actually used the apple for evil.
Yes.
So, I don't know. There's in Assassin's Creed history, there is like 6 apples.
This is number 1.
This is number 1?
This is number 1.
He uses number 1's apple?
Yes, he uses number 1. It's in the picture. It's in the picture.
Oh, Napoleon has in the
if you can read it, it's a little bit blurry, but if you can read it, it says number 1.
So, Napoleon has number 1's apple, the number 1 apple.
Yes.
I don't. What apple did Altair have? Didn't he have number 2?
I believe so.
Ezio had number 3, maybe.
I forget. I don't really know exactly.
Connor probably had number 4.
Yes, Connor had the one that JFK had.
That's a story for a different day, though. So
yeah,
we're not talking about that. So he has the first apple. Don't think the apples are any different from each other.
They do basically the same thing.
The same thing than the other one. There's no two are different. They're all the same. So most likely it's going, unless you are, unless you have blood of the first civilization, you will get corrupt with the apple.
And speaking of which, Arno is probably a descendant of Desmond. No, not Desmond. Well, maybe, because they have Desmond's bloodline. So, maybe Desmond. Or they have found another bloodline. And they don't even have to be First Civilization bloodline. They can just be someone in the Assassins.
But it's much harder to control the apple if you don't have First Civilization blood. So, maybe they, like, you know how it's from Assassin's Creed Revelations, they just skipped like 200, 300 years
Yes.
to go to the American Revolution?
Yes.
They never talked about Ezio's kids, Marcello and, was it the girl's name, Sophia or something? Yeah, Sophia. They never talked about Marcello and Sophia. They could have had kids. Went to France. They got French blood. They could have.
They were in Europe, yeah.
Because
So-
they lived in Tuscany,
Yeah.
Italy. So they could have moved to France because it's like right next to Italy. So Marcello or Sophia could have had kids when they were older.
They trained their kids to be assassins.
Why? Which I don't know how, because Ezio died before he could.
It doesn't matter. They can still know the guild.
Well, Sophia knew they were. she
What's
was
his
an
face?
assassin.
What's his face? I know their name. His friend was an assassin. Machiavelli.
But he was older.
That doesn't matter. He can still teach.
I know, but I'm just saying Sophia knew Ezio was
He's
an
still
assassin.
alive.
So
Well,
she
yeah.
could guide them to
Yes,
know where to
and-
be trained.
Yes.
So, like we were saying before, they could be the descendant. Arnaud could be the descendants of either Marcello or Sophia. It's just a
Yes.
thought.
That would make sense because they're European and they travel north to France. Here's a picture of the box that Ezio has given Xiao Jun when she went back to China. In the I guess you want to say short film Embers that was released a little bit after Assassin's Creed Revelations, and this box has sort of significance because
He
Ezio says
he told her use it if only if you lose your way. And then, as we know, that in AC3, Achilles mentions that Shao Jun created the rope dart. So obviously she survived somehow, somewhere, and probably used what was in that box if she lost her way, and she went back and pretty much redeemed the Japanese,
Chinese
assassins.
Obviously, she did something good because if she was able to create a weapon as deadly as the rope dart,
The Chinese assassins probably rose again after the emperor killed them off. And right now there will be a picture of
the same box,
in Freedom Cry.
the Assassin's Creed 4's DLC.
It's kind of hard to point it out, but we have a good picture right here. The one of the directors, or the director, I'm not too sure, it's not off the top of my head, he had stated that there would be a major Easter egg in Freedom Cry about the next Assassin's Creed. That major Easter egg could have been that it's a French colony, Port-au-Prince, or that this box would be carried over to the next game.
Because the assassins got a hold of this box from Shao Jun. Obviously, at the end of Freedom Cry, Bastantine, which is I guess you want to say Adewale's girlfriend, she was going to open the box, but Adewale told her not to.
No, she wasn't going to open it, she was going to sell it.
Oh, she was going to sell it?
Yeah.
No, whenever the weigh-in, she was going to open it, but Adewale told her not to. She was going to sell it at the beginning, but then...
Yeah, she said she has no one else to sell it to.
So she was going to open it, but then Adewale told her not to. And she agreed and said she'd keep it. But that kind of means that it was maybe never opened. If, like, Adewale wouldn't want it to be opened, maybe...
There's something in there, because at the beginning of the game,
Yeah.
that's what the French Templar had on his ship.
Adewale had to go and
either
take it
sink it, or go on the ship and take it. So obviously it's something of significant importance to the Assassins Templar cause.
And I think that if Adewale wouldn't want it to be opened, I think that it was never opened. Because Ezio said to Shao Jun to open it if you lose your way. She might have not lost her way. Whatever that means.
Or if she did open it, she put it back, or barely used it, or
whatever it is.
Whatever's in it, nobody really knows. But it could be like a piece of Eden, or I don't know. Who really knows what it could have been? I guess we'll figure out. And maybe there would be more hints in Unity or Comet, which brings us into our next conversation. That Comet has been rumored along with AC Unity. After AC Unity was leaked by Kotaku, there were some rumors of Comet being rumored by Kotaku. There was a letter specifically sent in, said it's from Ubisoft, like a leak, and they said that you were going to be Isiosa, the grandchild of Adewale. It was going to be around the 1750s, and you were going to see Connor again. It says that he was an arrogant assassin and needed the guidance of Connor.
Why do people keep calling?
Anyway, ignore that. It says he needed the guidance of Connor. Whatever that would mean. But then a couple days later, it was proved to be fake. It was someone from Ubisoft, but they just did it as a test experiment to see how people react quickly to random news that pops up on the internet. But there was another leak that still hasn't been proven real or fake. It was that you are Shay, who is that's a name. Shay is a Templar who has betrayed his old captain Adewale and is a pirate along the Atlantic coast, and you will be in New York and Hatham, the Templar from Assassin's Creed 3, Connor's father, will make an appearance because that's around the time whenever he went to America, around the 50s and 60s. And the leak also said that Adewale will make an appearance, and I think they said Edward somehow, maybe in the flashback because he died at 35, which makes no sense how he'd be in 50, but maybe in a flashback or some kind of history, I don't know. But right now, the only true factor, I guess you could say, is being the Templar, which personally, I wouldn't really like that because the only Templar we have been so far in the series is Hatham, and we figured that out at the end, unless you do a replay of it. But that doesn't really bother me. But if you have a whole game with a Templar, I don't know, I just wouldn't really.
But hey, let me say
like
something
it.
about the thing. Whenever it says he betrayed his captain Adewale, if any of you ever played Freedom Cry, you would notice that Adewale has a ship momentarily with a crew of African American, maybe slaves or Maroons, which are like a resistance
What,
group.
was that the Victoria or the Expirito Crede?
Expirito Crede. He had a ship with momentarily African American crewmates. So if Adewale was even another ship captain in the near future,
In the past,
Shay.
it would have been.
but Shay would most likely be African American.
But after Freedom Cry, he said he was going to be done.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
So either he was, because he was a captain before Freedom Cry, obviously. So Shay must have been years before Freedom Cry.
Unless it happened like immediately after.
I don't know, because the only ship he owned was the Victory, or whatever language it
Expirito
was.
Crede.
It was the Victory. That was the ship that crashed. And crashed in the Port-au-Prince.
Oh.
It was the Victory. In English, it was called the Victory, but it was really the Victor or something. But it must have been like years before, because it would make no sense. Nobody survived the crash, so obviously all the shipmates died. So it must have been one of his past ships in the 15 years he's been away from Edward.
But I'm just saying, no matter what time it is, you might, if you are a Templar, you might be of African descent.
It would make sense because you do have a point that he's been picking up. I don't want to say all African Americans, but if he's been doing what he's been doing with the guild for a while
And the Maroons.
freeing slaves,
And the Maroons and all
like
that stuff.
he might not have just been helping the slave cause. Maybe he's been doing it for years. Who really knows? Because he's been working with the Assassins for Freedom, so maybe he'll pick up some slaves like he was picked up by Edward, and then they'll help him out on his expeditions and helping with the Creed.
Now, it'll bring up to, I guess, either a new topic, you could say, about timelines and Desmond's bloodline, on what they would do with Unity, because with the Sample 17 project, they have taken Desmond's blood, since you can do it from the cloud, and you can put anyone in the Animus to use anyone's DNA, and they have, in this email that was in Assassin's Creed 4, that says timelines that they can use from Sample 17's blood, which is Desmond, so I'm just going to say Desmond. And they said that
He's gonna read it.
I'm going to read the whole email. It's on screen, but it's a little blurry, so I'm going to read it aloud. It says, I've been the Sample 17 project director for just over a year now, and my team and I have been able to cobble together a rough list of the most interesting time periods available to us. Through this single genetic sample, I'm sorry, I can't read that word.
This is data that
This is data that has been fully or partially sequenced by Abstergo Industries. I'll try to be brief. 15th century Italian Renaissance, 16th century Ottoman Empire, 18th century American colonies / war for independence,
19th century New England and American Midwest, 20th century Holy Land / Crusades, 13th century Egypt and Northern Africa, 14th century something something Japan, 18th century French Revolution, 19th century Napoleonic Wars Taiwan, and 20th century Summer of Love American Pacific Coast.
You said 20th. You said 20th. It's supposed to be 12th.
Oh, I'm sorry. But that, sorry. In the top email with the real email talking about the genetic memories, it says this data has been fully or partially sequenced by Abstergo Industries. So that means that Abstergo has been to those memories at least once or twice, but they didn't look through them as much as they did for Altair, Ezio, or I don't think we really know about anybody else, because Abstergo only looked through Altair and Ezio as far as we know of with Desmond's memories. So
and
that means go.
This gets us into the fact of a modern day setting. We're gonna look back at the Unity symbol at the end of the trailer right about now, and as you can see, there are buildings in the background, taller buildings to make it look like it's a city. So that could mean that whatever city that is could be the modern day setting. And you could be the same person from Assassin's Creed 4. Maybe they have a new person to go through Desmond's memories with. Well, nobody really knows, but I'm just saying, I'd like to point out that looks like to be the city, because they look too tall of a buildings to climb in France. Obviously, they don't look like France architecture; they're like skyscrapers. And yeah,
Either they look like buildings or something from the Animus. It kind of reminds me of Animus Island from Assassin's Creed Revelations. That's what I mean, because there's like random structures pointing out all over the place.
I don't know, like buildings.
Yeah, I don't know. Also, just another thought. This is the full conclusion to the Twins of Destruction Assassin's Creed Unity analysis and thoughts. If you have stuck with us throughout the whole ride of Assassin's Creed Unity news and thoughts and ideas and all that, news and stuff, thank you for that. Me and Clayton both thank you. The Twins of Destruction, we put time and effort into making these videos, and we really appreciate if you guys would like watching it. Remember, talk to us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We will put all those links down in the description. Like, comment, subscribe, and talk to us about games, Assassin's Creed Unity, upcoming games, Xbox One, PS4, whichever one you prefer. And we can do news on anything you want us to do, or we can do news on things that we like upcoming announcements or events that we can report on. So, like I've said a million times before, like, comment, subscribe, and we will get new news coming to you guys soon enough. So, me and Clayton, Twins of Destruction, are out. This is the